Look, I hope these talks in Washington go well, but our trade policy has been total chaos under this administration. There are definitely some legitimate issues. For example, China has been stealing our technology. They've been essentially strong-arming U.S. companies to turn over sensitive technology. So what we should be doing is working with our allies, our European allies especially, in a coordinated way. I support the effort to put Huawei on the control list. In fact, later today, Senator Cotton and I are going to have a bipartisan amendment instructing the conferees, the people who are part of the National Defense Authorization Bill, to make sure that we don't take them off without some kind of congressional review. On the other hand, I would say that the tariff war is hurting American consumers, American farmers, and American businesses, and that is the wrong way to focus. We should be focused on these national security technology issues.
We've worked with the allies for years. I don't know how long you might. I don't know when you would date the deleterious effects of dealing with China with some of their tactics. Some people, it goes back 25, 30 years since the WTO. So we haven't seen a lot of progress, and everybody talks about dealing with our allies. Let me just ask you, if the method works, and if the tariffs that were put on eventually end up with an agreement where intellectual property is not stolen, where some of these goals are affected, would you then say it was the right move to have done the tariffs? Or under no circumstances would you ever concede that actually this was the right thing to do? Humor me, and let's say it works out. Would you finally say something good about Trump?
Hey, look, if China accepted all the conditions the United States has demanded, and especially with respect to ending the theft of our technology, setting a whole different set of rules for foreign corporations compared to the China's enterprises, which, as you know, many of them are government-owned enterprises. That would, of course, require China to have a major shakeup in their approach on lots of these issues. Yes, and as I just told you, I agree with what this administration has done with respect to Huawei. I thought that was the right move. In fact, what I'm worried about is that they will trade off national security issues for concessions on trade. That is a very dangerous game to play, very dangerous.
Right. Although in the real world, we know how some of this stuff works. My only point was that the default position for everyone on your side, or people that oppose what Trump is doing, is that we need to work with our allies. And all of them, we've done nothing in 25 years. And the default position to just knee-jerk and come out with we need to work with our allies, no one believes that's a viable... nothing happened. It didn't work. Finally, something being done, and it...
Actually, that's not the case. We worked with a lot of our allies in the East Asia area to try to form trade agreements. Right. What's that?
But we haven't gotten it. It's been a long time coming.
So do you really think it's a good strategy? Yeah, but this administration did the opposite. You think it's a good idea to put tariffs on Canada and claim that that's a national security objective?
We're not talking about Canada.
No, we are. We're talking about our allies. I know, but we're talking about working with our allies to counter China, and putting tariffs on Canada and the Europeans doesn't really make for a good...
That's a fair point. Maybe not. We weren't talking about China and those other allies. We're just talking about whether it's a good idea to try to hold China accountable for a lot of these egregious trade behaviors.
Of course it is. Of course it is, and we're not an island. So the best way to hold China accountable is to have a much bigger bloc, the United States and the EU, in putting pressure on China. Instead, we're fighting with the EU and China.
Well, the EU's got some issues. They haven't always treated us as fairly either. What about the 8K trading gap bill that you introduced? This seems like there's a lot going on in the world. This probably makes sense, but what put it on your radar screen, and what's it in response to? A lot of CEOs have been taking advantage of the ability to sell before bad news or something?
Well, it's been pretty well documented that some CEOs, some executives are taking advantage of insider trading. Jay Clayton, who you're going to have on later, said that doing this is sort of basic corporate hygiene. Under our rules right now, if a company has a material change that can affect the stock price, they file an 8K. But there's a 4-day period that lapses between the time the company makes an official determination that they're going to file an 8K and the actual public disclosure of the 8K. And we're simply saying, when you got that kind of inside information, you should not be trading on it. This is really a no-brainer. I think it does have bipartisan support, and I'm hoping we will move forward on it. I'll tell you another thing that seems to be common sense, and this relates to China. Chinese companies on American exchanges are the only companies in the world who don't have to comply with our accounting procedures. We've talked about that before. So there are some things that we need to do to sort of clean up and tighten these rules to make sure we're fair to American investors, retail investors.